So I unsurprisingly grew up on the internet and a lot of its eccentric fandoms, one of them being the incredibly odd phenomenon of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. I grew up on the third generation of MLP and became a massive fan of the fourth gen when it came out in 2010. I could discuss the myriad of examples of the ponies being racist and or xenophobic to the other species the show creators introduced in the latter seasons of the show.
Bike! What are you doing? Get away from that thing!
But there was something that always bothered me from even the earlier seasons of MLP when I was a kid. In Equestria, we have three types of ponies we see most often. Unicorns, who have horns and can utilize magic, Pegasi, who have wings and can fly, and Earth ponies, who are functionally just kind of horses. We technically also have a fourth type of pony, alicorns, who have both horns and wings, but we really only see a handful of them as they're pretty much always going to be princesses. There's a distinct societal discrepancy amongst these different types of ponies, which for a show which is really about friendship and harmony feels kind of odd. In Equestria, all positions of power and influence are pretty much held by alicorns, with unicorns holding most of the social capital and wealth. Pegasi weirdly doing their own thing, and Earth ponies just being Earth ponies, which has been the case for this world as far as we know regarding their history. In the Hearthwarming Eve episode, we see the history of Equestria, for all ponies were a united country and preached love, equality, acceptance, that kind of stuff. In the olden days, unicorns, Pegasi, and Earth ponies were all separate tribes, living in different distinct societies but having their own roles within the kingdom. Outside of mandatory meetings for diplomacy reasons, there really was no regular interaction amongst the three pony societies. Pegasi were the military force, being in charge of protection and also being in charge of changing the weather. Unicorns were the aristocracy/royalty, being in charge of making the sun and moon rise and set every day. And Earth ponies were farmers who were in charge of growing all the food. In the episode, they rationalized their agreement as being completely equal to all three societies.
The Pegasi were the stewards of the weather, but they demanded something in return. Food that could only be grown by the Earth pony. The unicorns demanded the same, in return for magically bringing forth day and night.
There's actually no agreement established between Pegasi and unicorns for keeping their end of the bargain up. The entire system relies on the Earth ponies' labor, while Earth ponies don't really get anything special in return from either Pegasi or unicorns. The trade-off for Earth ponies is that they just have a normal climate, basically, to live in, which is a thing that Pegasi and unicorns would also just need to survive. Changing the weather and keeping the sun and moon going are just kind of the bare minimum that any kind of pony would need to survive, but they threaten to take away those things from Earth ponies specifically, who also make the most important resource, food. The thing is that both Pegasi and unicorns' end of the bargain is also self-serving. They also inherently benefit from having good weather and a standard day-night cycle. If Pegasi and unicorns just abandon their duties altogether, they would also run into a lot of issues. Earth ponies technically lose resources in this arrangement no matter what. They also presumably have to work harder than they would have to normally by having to make enough food for unicorns and Pegasi on top of their own population. It's not an actual trade-off because Earth ponies don't actually get something in return. It isn't like the unicorns and Pegasi do extra work beyond their expected baseline to give back something to the Earth ponies. They exploit the work of the Earth ponies without proper compensation. Earth ponies are just expected to work extra and give their own food resources to maintain the basic status quo of a livable planet. The rest of the episode shows how Equestria was actually formed, with the three tribes reconciling their differences because their hatred of each other actually brings in a blizzard that nearly wipes out all of them. Everyone ends up as friends and we all love each other because it's still a My Little Pony episode and we always have to have a friendship lesson in the end. But we see in this episode that the societal hierarchy and how awfully Earth ponies are treated within the system is actually baked into how Equestria was formed. They really never changed how the tribes interacted with each other in terms of their arrangement, so Earth ponies are still in charge of providing all of the food that feeds every pony in Equestria while not really getting something in return. They're just happy to do so now. In modern pony society, these segregated tribes still live pretty separately from each other. Earth ponies mostly populate small towns and cities throughout Equestria. Pegasi live mostly actually in their own world that only Pegasi can access, while unicorns pretty much make up the population of Canterlot, the main capital of the country. Canterlot not only holds the main palace and all of the royalty that make up their government form, who are pretty much all unicorns themselves. We even see within the castle's royal guard, Shining Armor, Twilight Sparkle's brother, is the captain, and when sent to protect the Crystal Empire in Season 3, his force field for defense is what keeps the Empire safe. This magic is something literally essentially only unicorns could do, so even in a space where Earth ponies are apparently physically stronger, unicorns are still given priority in defense and guarding duties. It's also where all of the high society things are, so where all the high-end fashion boutiques, art galleries, and expensive restaurants are all located. In addition to those amenities, Canterlot has all of the major schooling and universities, which are basically only available to unicorns as they specialize in magic training.
My parents decided to enroll me in Princess Celestia's school for gifted unicorns.
Without access to Equestria's universities, schooling for Earth ponies is pretty much the equivalent of elementary and middle school. Cheerlead's school in Ponyville literally only has fillies, who are the equivalent of like 10-year-olds basically. And as soon as they grow out of that phase, they all start working pretty much immediately. Earth ponies throughout equestrian society and history have always made up the working class of pony jobs. Most of the Earth ponies we see in this series have occupations like being farmers, bakers, florists. You don't really get to see Earth ponies represented in higher forms of power and education. They've been systematically excluded from those parts of pony society. I really want to emphasize at this point that I'm no way saying that these jobs are any less than any other job. Working class jobs are what keep society functioning on a daily basis and are extremely disrespected and underpaid. My bigger point is that Earth ponies don't really have the option to pursue other passions and occupations outside of the working class jobs. Pegasi also generally kind of get the short end of the stick, as we still do not really see Pegasi in very high influential positions of power. They do have the opportunity to pursue more lucrative careers, like being a Wonderbolt, who are a fleet of elite flyers who perform for various events throughout Equestria, but they're still limited by their lack of magic. Remember, all of the really expensive industries in My Little Pony are still located in Canterlot, and this world does have money. Their currency is called bits. It isn't like a free-range socialist economy where ponies just barter and vibe their way through life. The socially segregated Equestria hangs in a weird, delicate balance that shows its crack at times, and this is because unicorns are technically able to do everything that Pegasi and Earth ponies can do because of their magic.
We're not making it snow. It must be the unicorns. They're doing it with their freaky magic.
In the winter wrap-up episode specifically, Twilight Sparkle sees Ponyville's winter to summer transition for the first time. Twilight is a unicorn that was born and raised in Canterlot and was pretty much only surrounded by unicorns before she came to Ponyville. In Canterlot, magic is used to change the season, so Twilight is super excited to be involved in the traditional ways of Ponyville's winter wrap-up. It's somewhat of a taboo to bring magic into this process, which we see when Twilight uses a spell to make farming easier and Applejack gets super upset at her.
That's not how we do it round here, Twilight, and especially not on my farm.
Spike doesn't really understand why the ponies in Ponyville wouldn't want to just use Twilight's magic, because it would make the process way faster and easier for every pony. But it's as if the unicorn's technical ability to potentially industrialize these tasks that are traditionally carried out by Earth ponies and Pegasi is seen as somewhat of a threat. We see an example of this in an early episode of the series when Applejack is overworked and sleep-deprived trying to buck an entire orchard's harvest by herself. The other main six go to help her in the process, but Twilight's able to use her magic to clear out whole trees in a way shorter amount of time than just manually bucking each one would take. This discrepancy is really never acknowledged because, well, if magic starts getting introduced into spaces where magic hasn't been historically used, like with farming tasks and weather jobs, where would it end? In the episode The Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000, we're introduced to the Flim Flam brothers, two unicorns who create a magic automated machine that is able to produce apple cider at a much faster rate than the Apple family can produce manually. Generally, the citizens of Ponyville care more about just getting cider and opt to purchase from the Flim Flam brothers, and they're shown to be the antagonists of the episode. They are just money-hungry characters, so you want to root for the mom-and-pop production of Sweet Apple Acres, but it's kind of disturbing to think how quickly unicorns could technically automate a lot of Earth Pony jobs if they really wanted to. Even in the context of Pegasi, when I mentioned earlier how they have their own cloud kingdoms and stuff that are technically just accessible for Pegasi, we see in this series that Twilight can just cast a spell that allows her and her Earth Pony friends to join Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy in the sky. The magic evens the playing field, I guess, in a way, but it's just another instance of not only how unicorns are just kind of able to be part of any Pegasus or Earth Pony spaces, but those areas would be entirely inaccessible to Earth Ponies without a unicorn friend that knows magic. In the episode Ghostbusters, Trixie is an even better example of all this. She's an incredibly powerful unicorn that bests pretty much all other ponies in all aspects when they challenge her to different shows of skill. This even includes Rainbow Dash and Applejack, objectively the fastest Pegasus and strongest Earth Pony in Ponyville. Spike even remarks that only another unicorn would be able to challenge Trixie. And to hammer in everything else that I've already mentioned, in her second episode Magic Duel, when Trixie loses her credibility as a lucrative traveling magician, she literally takes a job on Pinkie Pie's family's rock farm.
I even had to take a job on a rock farm just to earn a living. A rock farm! Hey! You're
So unicorns get to sit on all of the money and royal power in Equestria. It would be like unicorns making up the white collar positions in Equestria, considered very prestigious within society and pay much better than other positions, but are not necessary for societal function, like the jobs Earth ponies are responsible for. That's the trade-off Equestria society has developed over time. My Little Pony is still ultimately a kid's show, so it's not like the Earth ponies are actively discriminated against at any point or made to feel less equal to Pegasi and unicorns. Earth ponies are just given the short end of the stick most of the time and are just expected to accept that they would not be able to do things that Pegasi and unicorns are able to do. The show has several other instances of unintentionally showing that being an Earth pony is just not considered that special in this universe. In the episode Fall Weather Friends, Applejack and Rainbow Dash get in a pretty intense rivalry over who's the most athletic and strong, competing in a series of physical challenges just to see who's best. Rainbow Dash's wings inherently give her an advantage in certain contests and thus have to tie her wings to her back. I agree that it wouldn't be fair for Applejack to race against a Pegasus who could use her wings to make her faster, but it isn't like the series makes Applejack carry heavy weights on her legs to weigh her down just because Earth pony legs are just that much stronger than a Pegasus's legs. Only Rainbow Dash has to have a handicap of some kind to make it an equal competition.
What the heck? You said no flying! No, I said no wings!
In the Return to Harmony episodes where we're introduced to Discord, he takes away both of the Pegasi's wings and both of the unicorn's horns, while not taking anything from the Earth ponies. Rainbow Dash, Fluttershy, Rarity, Twilight, they all freak out because their flying and magic are taken away from them. They effectively become Earth ponies. Applejack and Pinkie Pie literally just stand there the whole time, not reacting, since it isn't that different for them.
Give us our wings and horns back!
But Discord specifically says that their horns and wings would count as cheating, presumably seeing them as unfair advantages outside of a normal pony's abilities.
I simply took them to ensure there's no cheating. You see, this is the first rule of our game. No flying and no magic.
I'm not saying that all Earth ponies are unhappy or anything like that. We see Earth ponies like Applejack who are very happy farming and that gives her purpose. She even tried to live in the big city of Manhattan as a kid and realized she missed living on her farm. We also see Earth ponies like Pinkie Pie who grew up on a farm and hated it and found her own path. It's just that the options that are accessible to Earth ponies are inherently more limited in the society that we've created. If a Pegasus was in a similar situation as Pinkie, being from a family who did like snowflake making and realized they didn't want to do that Pegasus could do what Pinkie does and become like a comedian, party host, traveling entertainer, basically. Pinkie, conversely, would not have the ability to go up to the Pegasus snow factory and make snowflakes, even if that was her biggest life's passion. Even within unicorns, not all unicorns have the same level of magic ability like Twilight Sparkle or even Trixie. Most unicorns have an average usage of magic that is best suited to whatever their own cutie mark interest is, while for unicorns who are lucky to have a special interest of literally just magic, they're able to do more than even other types of unicorns, providing them power and status that is otherwise not afforded to other types of ponies. Amongst the main six, Rainbow Dash becomes a very successful, famous Wonderbolt. Rarity is a popular fashion designer who made it big in Ponyville before launching her career in the elusive Canterlot fashion industry. And Twilight Sparkle becomes a literal princess of friendship who has her own school and castle because she's just that good at magic. Applejack and Pinkie Pie are also very successful within their own right. Applejack owning and operating her family farm, while Pinkie is a traveling party host with her husband Cheese Sandwich. But these are technically still jobs that ponies like Rainbow Dash and Rarity could do if they really, really wanted to. Applejack would not be able to pursue being a Wonderbolt or a princess of magic even if she really did want to. And these options are closed to them because of a feature they can't control if they're born with or not. All members of the main six are successful in their own right, and again, I'm not saying any of these jobs are less than others. I'm saying Earth ponies have inherently less options in what they're able to pursue, while unicorns get to control all the more expensive industries and literal government because they have magic, which leaves Earth ponies and Pegasi unrepresented in those decision-making systems. It's why all of the princesses in this series are alicorns and have both magic and wings. It makes them more powerful than other ponies. So what's the point of all this? The main show creator, Lauren Faust, obviously never went into the initial writing and world building of My Little Pony with any intention of making a hauntingly scathing critique on capitalism and the illusion of meritocracy in our society. She obviously did not go in with the intention of discussing how the rich have more connections and resources to have more access to influential positions of power while also exploiting the working class who perform way more important jobs in day-to-day society. She just made a pony show with ponies and Pegasi and unicorns because little girls like ponies and Pegasi and unicorns. The previous generations of the My Little Pony cartoon also have all these different types of ponies and then some others, but they don't actually have as big world building scopes. So Friendship is Magic is unique in showing a larger society made up of different ponies and just other species. None of this would be apparent if we just stayed in Ponyville, which is actually kind of unique in its diversity, and a part of why Princess Celestia had sent Twilight there initially for her friendship studies. But we've created cities like Lost Pegasus and Canterlot and Manhattan that each have their own populations and wealth that creates this weirdly segregated society that's not fair to Earth ponies most of the time. It 100% makes sense for a kid's show about magic, colorful horses that unicorns have magic and are fancy. Pegasi are cool and can fly, and they have their own cloud cities. Earth ponies are horses. However, when you create a world where all three are technically supposed to be equal, but then make them incredibly segregated by their features, it isn't inherently equal. It's just never addressed in My Little Pony because, oh my god, why would it be? This was just something that somehow always bothered me since watching this series as a kid, which was never something that I even thought about with previous My Little Pony cartoons. This is just the first time I've actually been able to articulate exactly why it bothered me, though. At the end of the day, Equestria has a society where Earth ponies are provided limited options in life compared to Pegasi and unicorns and are often left behind, which is how they've always been treated historically since the founding of Equestria. If you asked really any fan of My Little Pony what type of pony they would want to be, the majority would probably say unicorn or Pegasi. My Little Pony is children's entertainment and was never made to attract adult audiences. However, in simplifying the dynamics amongst these types of ponies and giving them attributes, the creators of the show made a society that exploits and treats Earth ponies as second-class citizens compared to magical and flying ponies, which holds a haunting mirror to our own societal inequalities and how classes are divided and treated. Thank you to anyone who has watched this far. This discussion around classism and My Little Pony was something that always bothered me as like a kid, so I'm glad I was able to finally make a video on it. Also have been a little overwhelmed, like in a good way, with the reception to my first couple videos. So I hope if anyone has gotten this far that you enjoyed this one as well. So thank you very much.